Once upon a time, in a magnificent kingdom filled with golden sunlight and the gentle sound of birdsong, there lived a wise and noble king. This king was blessed with 12 children, 11 sons and 1 daughter. His daughter, the youngest of them all, was named Eliza. She was a girl of remarkable kindness, cleverness, and courage. Her brothers were equally brilliant and full of life. Together, they lived in a grand castle where laughter often echoed through the tall marble halls, where the scent of blooming gardens drifted through the windows, and where happiness seemed to dwell in every corner. The king's children were growing up in the most enchanting surroundings imaginable. They were taught to read, write, and understand the ways of the world. Each child had a unique talent. The eldest prince was strong and brave, the second thoughtful and wise, the third gentle and kind, and so it went, until Eliza, whose heart was as pure as a crystal stream and whose love for her brothers knew no bounds. But life, as often happens in fairy tales, has a way of changing. The king, though deeply devoted to his children, felt a certain loneliness in his heart. After the sad passing of his beloved queen, the halls of the castle, despite their grandeur, seemed empty. The laughter of his children could fill the rooms, yet the king's heart longed for a companion, someone to share his days and nights, someone to be a mother to Eliza and her brothers. So, after careful thought, the king decided to remarry. A grand ceremony was arranged, a celebration to welcome the new queen. The children, innocent and hopeful, awaited her arrival with curiosity and excitement. They imagined that having a new mother would mean warmth, love, and guidance, someone who could smile upon them and share in their joys. But when the queen arrived, the picture that greeted them was nothing like the one they had imagined. The new queen was a woman of great beauty, yes, but her heart was dark, filled with envy and cruelty. She looked upon the children not with warmth or kindness, but with a coldness that seemed to chill the very air around her. Eliza and her brothers were uneasy, sensing that this woman was no ordinary queen. In truth, she was a wicked witch. Her plans were as twisted as her heart. She had long desired power and dominance, and the existence of the king's children so beloved and cherished by him stood in the way of her ambitions. In her mind, there could only be one who shone in the castle, and that was she herself. Anyone who threatened her pride, she decided, must be removed. The queen began plotting in secret. She started by isolating Eliza from the rest of her family, sending her to a remote place with a humble peasant and his wife. She whispered dreadful lies to the king, claiming that Eliza and her brothers were disobedient and unworthy of his attention. The king, though kind-hearted, was deceived by these lies. With a heavy heart, he ordered the children to leave the castle, believing that they had brought shame and misfortune. Seizing this opportunity, the queen cast a powerful spell upon the 11 princes. "You shall spend the rest of your lives as ugly, silent birds," she declared, her voice echoing through the empty halls, "and fly away, never to return." The princes, noble and pure of heart, were deeply troubled. Yet their goodness was stronger than the queen's wicked magic. Instead of turning into ugly, grotesque creatures, they became beautiful swans, graceful and strong. With sorrow in their eyes but determination in their hearts, they lifted their wings and flew away from the castle, leaving behind the life they had known. Eliza, meanwhile, felt a deep, aching sorrow in her heart. She missed her brothers terribly and longed to be reunited with them. Though she was far from home, she remained steadfast, her mind always thinking of her beloved family. Years passed, and when Eliza turned 15, she was allowed to return to the castle to meet her father. Her heart leapt with joy at the thought of seeing him again. Yet the queen, jealous and cunning, had other plans. She could not bear to see Eliza so young and beautiful, for in her mind, no one should outshine her. Pretending to be kind, she greeted Eliza warmly, concealing her dark intentions beneath a mask of sweetness. "Welcome, dear Eliza," she said, her voice like honey. "Come with me to my chamber. I have a special gift for you." Trusting the queen, Eliza followed her. The queen presented a cream and claimed it would protect her from evil eyes. Little did Eliza know, the cream was a trap, a wicked spell designed to make her ugly. As the cream touched her skin, her reflection changed. Her once lovely face now appeared frightening and strange. When the king saw Eliza, he was horrified. "Is this my daughter?" he cried. "Take her away at once. I will have nothing to do with her." Heartbroken, Eliza was thrown out of the castle once again, left to wander the world alone. She wished more than anything that her brothers were there to protect her. Determined not to give up, Eliza began a long and arduous journey through forests, mountains, and rivers, seeking her brothers. She traversed thick woods where sunlight barely touched the forest floor, guided only by her love for her family. She met many creatures along the way, some kind, some indifferent, but she pressed on, never faltering in her mission. One day, deep within a dense forest, Eliza encountered an old lady gathering berries. The woman greeted her kindly. "Do not be afraid, child. Are you hungry? Come, eat something." Eliza, grateful for the kindness, explained her quest. "I am searching for my 11 brothers. Have you seen them?" The old lady shook her head slowly but added, "I have seen swans swimming in the river, each with a crown upon its head. If you follow the river, you may find them." Eliza thanked the old lady and followed the river bank. Hours passed. She finally reached where the river met the ocean. There, lying among the seaweed, she saw 11 white feathers, each shining softly in the sunlight. Her heart soared. "They must be my brothers," she whispered. And just as the sun began to set, she saw them 11 beautiful swans descending gracefully from the sky, landing near her. As the last rays of sunlight faded, the swans transformed into her brothers once more. "Oh, finally I found you!" Eliza cried, her eyes brimming with tears of joy. Eliza had finally found her 11 brothers, yet her journey was far from over. Though she was reunited with them, their lives were still ensnared in the wicked queen's cruel spell. By day, they were majestic swans, gliding gracefully across rivers and lakes. By night, when the sun's golden rays dipped below the horizon, they regained their human form, weary but ever resilient. Eliza spent that night in the forest, sitting beside a small fire her brothers had built. She marveled at their courage, at how they had endured the cruelty of the spell without complaint. Yet a shadow of sorrow lingered over them all, for freedom seemed almost unreachable. As Eliza closed her eyes that night, she dreamed. In her dream, a fairy appeared before her, glowing softly in the dim light of the cave she had sought for shelter. Her appearance was kind and gentle, yet her eyes carried a weight of knowledge and authority. The fairy's voice was melodic, like the whisper of wind through the trees. "Dear Eliza," the fairy said, "I know your heart is heavy and your thoughts consumed with the plight of your brothers. You long to free them, yet you do not know how. The path is difficult, but not impossible. You must be brave and patient." Eliza, determined beyond words, replied, "I will do anything for my brothers. I will endure all pain. Tell me what I must do." The fairy nodded. "There is a special nettle, sharp and stinging, that grows near the graveyards by this cave. You must pick these nettles, crush them into a fine wax, and weave 11 coats. Once the coats are complete, throw them over your brothers, and the spell shall be broken. But heed this warning: if you speak a single word from the moment you begin this task until it is finished, the spell will remain, and your brothers will die. Eliza's heart pounded with determination. I understand. I will not speak. I will endure it all, no matter the pain. When she awoke, she realized it had been a dream. The sense of urgency settled over her like a heavy cloak. Her brothers had flown away at sunrise, as they always did, leaving her alone to begin her laborious task. Eliza ventured to the graveyards at the edge of the forest. The nettles grew tall and unforgiving, their leaves sharp and cruel. Each one pricked her skin as she pulled them from the soil, drawing blood that stung and burned, yet she pressed on, knowing that every ounce of pain she endured brought her closer to saving her beloved brothers. Back in the cave, she began the meticulous process of crushing the nettles, mixing them into a waxy substance that would be pliable enough to weave. Each thread she spun carried with it the silent prayers of her heart, her tears falling onto the wax and adding a strange warmth to the material. It was slow, painstaking work. The nettles were harsh, and her hands soon became red and blistered, yet she did not stop. One night, as she worked by the dim light of a flickering candle, she noticed a tiny mouse observing her from a corner of the cave. The little creature seemed fascinated by her work. To her astonishment, the mouse began to scurry about, helping her collect more nettles, carrying small bundles to her feet with remarkable diligence. When her brothers returned at sunset, transformed from swans to humans, they were puzzled to see Eliza so engrossed in her mysterious task. Eliza, the youngest said softly, "What are you doing?" Eliza did not answer, keeping true to the fairy's command. The youngest prince approached her and gently lifted her hands to inspect them. He saw the raw, stinging wounds inflicted by the nettles and was moved to tears. His gentle drops of tears fell upon her hands, easing the pain for a short while, allowing her a few hours of rest. But she continued her work tirelessly, refusing to rest for long, for time was precious, and the spell was unforgiving. Day after day, she worked. She wove one coat after another, her fingers bleeding, her body aching, but her spirit never faltered. The mouse continued its loyal assistance, darting between the cave and the graveyard, bringing back the nettles she needed. Slowly, the coats began to take shape, delicate and beautiful despite the harshness of the materials. As she was preparing the 10th coat, she realized she would soon need more nettles. That night, under the cover of darkness, she ventured out to the graveyard near the castle. The wind whispered among the gravestones, and the moon cast long, eerie shadows. Eliza moved cautiously, for the graveyard was desolate and lonely, and she knew any distraction could endanger her brothers. Suddenly, she found herself surrounded by dogs and huntsmen, their eyes gleaming in the moonlight. They had come to capture her. Before she could react, a handsome young man rode down from his horse, his cloak flapping in the wind. "What are you doing here, child?" he asked, his voice both commanding and kind. Eliza could only shake her head, keeping silent, for even a single word could doom her brothers. "I cannot leave you here," the young man said decisively. "I am the king of this land. You must come with me to my castle, where you will be safe." With no other choice, Eliza followed him. The castle was magnificent, filled with marble halls, intricate tapestries, and golden chandeliers that shimmered in the candlelight. Yet Eliza's heart remained heavy, for her mind was with her brothers, still trapped in the cruel spell of the wicked queen. The king, understanding her situation, brought her the wax and the partially woven coats she had worked on. "Here," he said gently, Continue your work. I will ensure that no harm comes to you." Eliza resumed her weaving, working tirelessly day and night. 10 coats were now complete. Only the final, 11th coat remained, and she needed more nettles. One night, she once again ventured to the graveyard, quietly gathering the necessary plants. Her careful movements did not go unnoticed. The king's advisor and his men discovered her and immediately suspected foul play. "You there? What are you doing in the graveyard?" demanded one of the men. Eliza kept silent, as she must, her hands trembling from exhaustion and the pain of nettles. The men, convinced that she was a witch practicing dark magic, resolved to take her to court and determine her punishment. The council decreed that she should be banished to an island, alone, far from the castle, where she would spend her final night before execution. The night was long and dreary. Eliza was confined to a small, cold cell, her heart heavy but her resolve unwavering. Just then, to her astonishment, a bundle of her coats woven from wax was thrown into her cell through the small window. It was a gift from the king, meant to keep her warm and allow her to continue her work. The mouse, ever diligent and loyal, continued to assist her. It darted back and forth, collecting nettles and bringing them to her so she could complete the final coat. Slowly, painstakingly, she wove the 11th coat, her fingers moving with precision despite the pain and fatigue. By the time morning approached, Eliza had completed her final coat. She was ready to cast the spell-breaking garments upon her brothers. But as fate would have it, her work was not yet done, and challenges still lay ahead. Above her, she could hear the familiar sound of wings flapping. The swans, her brothers, had come to protect her. They circled the cell, a magnificent sight, as though to shield her from the world's cruelty. With a deep breath, Eliza prepared to finally cast the 11 coats over her brothers, each stroke bringing them closer to freedom. The morning sun had just begun to peek over the horizon, casting golden rays across the castle walls. Eliza, sitting in her small cart, held the final coat in her hands. Her heart was pounding, a mixture of exhaustion, anticipation, and hope. Around her, the bustling crowd of people had gathered, curious to witness the fate of the girl they believed to be a witch. Hundreds of eyes were upon her, yet she remained silent, determined to see her task through. Above her, 11 swans circled gracefully, their wings slicing through the morning sky. They landed softly around the cart, forming a protective ring. The sight of them was breathtaking. Majestic creatures, their feathers shining in the sun, moving with both strength and gentleness. They were her brothers, still trapped in the cruel spell, yet their presence gave her courage. With careful hands, Eliza draped the first coat over the largest swan. A magical transformation occurred instantly. Feathers melted away like dew in the morning sun, revealing the form of a handsome young prince. His eyes, bright and filled with wonder, met Eliza's, and a smile of recognition spread across his face. 1, 2, 3. She counted silently in her mind, each coat carefully thrown over each swan. With every coat, another brother returned to human form, their expressions a mix of relief, joy, and astonishment. By the time she reached the final swan, the crowd was murmuring in awe, unable to comprehend the magic unfolding before them. The last coat slipped over the final swan, and a blinding light enveloped him. The transformation was complete. 11 handsome princes, standing tall and free at last. They rushed to Eliza, lifting her into their arms, their eyes glistening with tears of gratitude. "Our sister! Our brave, courageous sister!" they cried in unison. Eliza finally spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. "I am not a witch, she said firmly, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. "I did this to save my brothers. Every stitch, every moment of silence, every ounce of pain, it was all for them." The king, who had watched from a distance, felt a wave of shame and remorse wash over him. He had doubted his daughter, thrown her out, and almost allowed her to be executed. Tears welled in his eyes as he approached Eliza. "My dear Eliza," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I am so sorry for doubting you. You are brave, selfless, and wise. Will you forgive your father?" Eliza smiled gently, the warmth of reconciliation filling her heart. "I forgive you, Father," she replied. The crowd erupted in cheers, witnessing the triumph of love, courage, and perseverance. But the story was not complete. The evil queen, whose spells had caused so much pain, had not yet faced justice. The king, along with Eliza and her 11 brothers, devised a plan to bring her reign of terror to an end. The queen's kingdom was vast, but her cruelty had left many loyal subjects eager for change. With the combined strength of the king and the 11 princes, they marched into her lands. The queen tried to wield her magic against them, but her powers had waned, unable to match the unity and goodness of those she sought to destroy. Captured and powerless, the queen was imprisoned, her spells undone, and her kingdom reclaimed by the rightful rulers. The people rejoiced, celebrating not only the return of their princes but also the courage of the princess who had endured unimaginable pain to save them. With the queen's threat eliminated, life in the castle returned to harmony. The children, once separated by cruel fate, were reunited fully. The laughter that had been absent for so long filled the halls once more. The garden seemed brighter, the sunlight warmer, and the songs of birds sweeter. The king, seeing the extraordinary bravery of his daughter, made a decision that would bring lasting happiness to the kingdom. He proposed to Eliza, honoring her not only as a daughter but also as a partner in ruling the kingdom wisely and kindly. "Eliza," he said with sincerity, "you have shown courage, love, and wisdom beyond your years. Will you marry me and be my queen?" Eliza, her heart overflowing with joy and pride, agreed. "Yes, Father. I will marry you, not just for duty, but to continue serving this kingdom with love and justice." The royal wedding was a grand celebration, attended by all the people of the kingdom. Music filled the air, dancers twirled in colorful garments, and laughter echoed far beyond the castle walls. The 11 princes stood proudly beside their sister, honored guests in a celebration that had been years in the making. Yet, amidst the festivities, Eliza's thoughts never strayed far from her brothers. She had fought for them, suffered for them, and now, together, they were stronger than ever. The bonds of family, tested by cruelty and hardship, had emerged unbroken, shining brighter than any crown or treasure. The king and Queen Eliza ruled with wisdom and compassion, ensuring that justice and kindness prevailed throughout the land. The 11 princes, once transformed into swans, now served as pillars of strength and guidance for the kingdom, their experiences as birds giving them a unique perspective on freedom, courage, and resilience. And so, peace returned. The evil queen was never able to harm anyone again, locked away in a dungeon far from the kingdom, where she could no longer threaten the innocent. The people flourished under the wise and just rule of the king and Queen Eliza. Every year, the memory of the trials endured, and the triumph over cruelty was celebrated. The story of Eliza and her brothers became a legend, told from one generation to the next, a tale of bravery, perseverance, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Eliza often walked in the gardens with her brothers, watching the swans glide gracefully across the ponds. She would smile, remembering the days when her brothers were cursed, and the nights she spent silently weaving coats from stinging nettles. Every pain, every tear, every moment of doubt had led to this victory, a victory of love, courage, and unwavering faith in goodness. The kingdom thrived, the children of the king grew in wisdom and virtue, and all lived happily ever after. And so ends the tale of Eliza and the Wild Swans, a story that reminds us that even in the face of great evil, love, courage, and patience can triumph over any darkness. The morning air was crisp as Eliza sat in her small, humble cart, her fingers nimble yet tender from days of weaving the coats. The sun's rays slowly lit the world around her, glinting off the dew-covered leaves and casting long, golden shadows across the path leading to the shore. Each feather of the 11 swans glimmered in the sunlight, a dazzling spectacle of white and silver, their wings gently beating the air as if to beckon her forward. Eliza's heart raced not from fear, but from anticipation. Every stitch, every thread, every painstaking hour spent in silence had brought her to this moment. The final coat, the 11th, lay across her lap, delicate yet strong, imbued with the silent love and determination she carried for her brothers. She had endured pain beyond measure, yet a quiet joy now filled her soul. Freedom for her brothers was almost within reach. The mouse, her tiny and loyal companion, darted around her feet, squeaking softly in encouragement. Its beady eyes gleamed with intelligence, and its small paws were steady as it fetched more stinging nettles for Eliza to weave into wax threads. She glanced down and gave a silent nod of gratitude, for without the mouse's help, the task would have been impossible. Around her, the crowd had begun to gather. People from nearby villages, curious travelers, and even soldiers from the king's castle had come to witness the girl who had been accused of witchcraft. They stared in awe at her, some with suspicion, others with admiration, watching silently as she worked. The fear of execution hung in the air like a heavy cloud, yet Eliza's determination was unshakable. Her lips remained sealed, her eyes focused, her mind entirely on her brothers. Above her, the 11 swans circled gracefully, their wings casting flickering shadows across the cobblestones. With every flap, the wind whispered through the crowd, a subtle reminder of the magical forces at work. Eliza took a deep breath, centering herself, and carefully lifted the first coat, draping it over the back of the nearest swan. A brilliant light burst forth, dazzling the onlookers. The swan's feathers shimmered and then dissolved like morning mist, revealing the familiar form of a young prince, handsome, noble, and radiant. His eyes widened in amazement, and for the first time in years, he smiled without sorrow. "Eliza, my brave sister," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Eliza's heart swelled. She carefully draped the second coat, then the third. Each transformation brought tears to her eyes. The sight of her brothers freed from the cruel enchantment was worth every moment of pain, every sting of the nettles, every sleepless night spent weaving. The crowd watched in amazement, gasping and murmuring, as one by one, the swans turned back into princes. Each embraced Eliza in silent gratitude, their hands warm against her chilled fingers. Her heart overflowed with love for them, her spirit buoyed by the knowledge that the spell was finally broken. Finally, only one coat remained, the 11th. Eliza carefully positioned it over the last swan. The transformation was instantaneous. The final prince emerged, shaking off his wings and stepping forward. He looked at Eliza, and with a bow filled with profound respect, said, "Our sister, our hero, you have saved us all." Eliza, her voice steady and filled with emotion, finally spoke aloud. "I am not a witch," she said, her eyes sweeping across the astonished crowd. "I did this to save my brothers. Every stitch, Every moment of silence, every wound on my hands, it was all for them. The king, who had come in haste after hearing rumors of Eliza's supposed crimes, felt a rush of shame and sorrow. He had doubted his daughter, believing the lies of the wicked queen. Now, seeing her courage and love laid bare, he fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Eliza, my daughter, my brave, noble child. I am so sorry. Please forgive me for doubting you." Eliza stepped forward, her heart full of compassion. "I forgive you, Father," she said softly. "I never stopped loving you, even when I was cast out. Now that my brothers are free, and the kingdom is safe, we can begin anew." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the hills and valleys. Children clapped, mothers wept tears of joy, and men of the kingdom bowed in respect. The tale of Eliza's bravery spread like wildfire, capturing hearts far and wide. But the story was not yet complete. The wicked queen, who had caused so much suffering, had not yet been held accountable. The king, together with Eliza and her 11 brothers, set out to bring justice. The queen's kingdom, ruled with fear and cruelty, was ripe for change. The people, weary of her tyranny, were eager to see her power ended. The march to the queen's castle was a sight to behold. The sun rose, illuminating the path ahead, casting a golden glow upon the determined faces of Eliza and her brothers. The air was thick with anticipation. Soldiers, villagers, and loyal followers lined the roads, offering support and hope. The swiftness of their journey was matched only by the certainty in their hearts they would see justice done. The queen, sensing her control slipping, attempted to wield her dark magic against them. Spells of fire and shadows danced through the air, but they were no match for the unity and love of Eliza and her family. Each brother, recalling the pain and lessons learned during their days as swans, stood strong and resolute. Eliza, calm and unwavering, directed them with wisdom and courage beyond her years. At last, the queen was captured. Her powers were nullified, her spells undone, and her influence over the people broken. She was imprisoned in a fortified tower, isolated from the world, where she could no longer harm anyone. Justice was served, and the kingdom rejoiced. With the queen defeated, peace returned to the land. The castle, once shadowed by fear and deceit, now irradiated with warmth and joy. The gardens bloomed with an abundance of flowers, and the song of birds filled the air. The people celebrated, honoring not only the bravery of Eliza but also the resilience of the 11 princes. The king, humbled and proud, knew that his daughter's wisdom and courage deserved more than gratitude. He proposed marriage to Eliza, not out of mere duty, but as an acknowledgement of her strength, love, and unyielding spirit. "Eliza," he said, kneeling before her, "you have shown the true meaning of courage and sacrifice. Will you marry me and rule this kingdom with love and justice?" Eliza, her heart full, agreed with a smile that could light the darkest night. "Yes, Father. Together, we will ensure that this kingdom thrives in peace and happiness." The wedding was celebrated across the kingdom with music, dancing, and laughter. Citizens from far and wide came to witness the union, marveling at the resilience and virtue of the young princess. Her brothers, free at last, stood proudly beside her, symbols of hope, courage, and familial love. Eliza often reflected on her journey, remembering the nights spent weaving coats from stinging nettles, the silent prayers she whispered, the loyalty of the tiny mouse who had helped her, and the unwavering love she had for her brothers. Each memory reminded her that true courage is often quiet, patient, and persistent. And so, the kingdom flourished. The wicked queen's reign of terror was over, and justice prevailed. The royal family, united and strong, lived with love, compassion, and wisdom. The people were happy, and tales of bravery, sacrifice, and family were told for generations to come. Every year, the story of Eliza and her brothers the wild swans was recounted with reverence. It served as a reminder that no darkness is too great to overcome when courage, love, and patience are held close to the heart. Eliza, now a queen beloved by all, would often walk among the swans gliding on the castle ponds, a quiet smile upon her lips. She knew that the trials she had endured were not in vain, that the love for her family had triumphed over evil, and that the bonds of heart and courage were stronger than any spell or magic in the world. The castle was alive with celebration. Music floated through the air like golden ribbons, and the scent of fresh flowers mingled with the rich aroma of roasted meats and sweet pastries. Courtiers, villagers, and travelers all mingled in joyful anticipation. It was a day not just of a royal wedding, but a day that celebrated courage, resilience, and the triumph of love over darkness. Eliza walked gracefully through the grand hall, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief, pride, and lingering memories of her arduous journey. She wore a gown of deep sapphire blue, trimmed with silver embroidery, each stitch reflecting the quiet perseverance that had brought her here. Her 11 brothers followed closely, standing tall and proud, dressed in fine garments that accentuated their princely bearing yet did not overshadow the warmth in their eyes. The king stood at the head of the hall, his face radiant with joy and humility. He looked at Eliza, and then at his sons, and the tears he had once shed for their suffering were replaced with tears of happiness. The people, witnessing the reunion of this extraordinary family, felt a deep connection to the story of bravery and sacrifice that had unfolded before them. During the ceremony, Eliza's brothers each took a moment to express their gratitude. The eldest, whose strength and courage had guided them even in the form of swans, stepped forward and spoke clearly, his voice echoing through the hall. "Dear sister," he said, bowing slightly, "your hands endured pain so that ours might know freedom. Your silence, your unwavering determination, has shown us the true meaning of courage. We are forever in your debt, and we shall always honor you." The other brothers followed, each recounting the moments they had endured as swans, the feeling of wind beneath their wings, the loneliness of flight, the longing to return to human form, and each spoke of Eliza's love and patience as their guiding light. Their voices, strong and resonant, filled the hall with a profound sense of awe. Eliza's eyes glistened as she listened to them, her heart touched deeply. She had never imagined the love she bore her brothers could be reflected back in such overwhelming measure. "I did nothing more than what I had to," she said softly, though the emotion in her voice betrayed her humility. "I could not have succeeded without your patience, your courage, and, perhaps a little help from a tiny friend," she added with a faint smile, glancing at the small mouse that had scurried along the floor of the hall, unnoticed by most, yet ever present during her trials. The mouse, for its part, twitched its whiskers proudly, knowing that it had played a vital role in the success of this incredible journey. It had carried nettles, avoided dangers, and witnessed the weaving of every coat, silent but ever faithful. In a small corner of the hall, it settled quietly, satisfied that the family it had aided was finally whole. The wedding ceremony proceeded with great pomp and reverence. The king took Eliza's hand in his, looking deep into her eyes. "Eliza," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "you have proven yourself not only as my daughter, but as a leader, a protector, and a beacon of hope for this kingdom. Will you be my queen, ruling with wisdom and love by my side?" Eliza's answer was steady, unwavering, and full of conviction. "Yes, Father. I will serve this kingdom with my heart, and together we shall ensure justice and happiness for all." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers mingling with the notes of trumpets and the strumming of lutes. Banners of every color fluttered in the breeze, and the castle gardens were alive with laughter, dancing, and song. The long shadow of fear that had once loomed over the kingdom was gone, replaced by the light of hope, love, and harmony. After the wedding, Eliza's attention turned once more to her brothers. Though the spell had been broken, their experiences as swans had changed them. They had learned resilience, patience, and the value of family in ways no ordinary human could understand. They embraced one another, sharing silent glances and gentle touches, the bond between them stronger than ever before. In the weeks that followed, Eliza and her brothers worked alongside the king to restore the kingdom. The lands that had suffered under the queen's tyranny were revitalized. Fields that had lain fallow bloomed with golden wheat, forests once threatened by neglect and dark magic became lush and vibrant, and towns once shadowed by fear were filled with laughter and life. Eliza took particular care to visit those who had been oppressed, ensuring that their voices were heard and their needs met. Her wisdom and courage inspired the people, who came to see her not just as a princess or a queen, but as a symbol of hope and compassion. Her brothers each found their own ways to serve the kingdom. The eldest became a commander of the royal guard, leading with strength tempered by kindness. Another took charge of the kingdom's libraries and schools, ensuring that knowledge and learning were accessible to all. Others traveled the lands, promoting fairness, resolving disputes, and assisting those in need. Together, they became pillars of support for the kingdom, their experiences as swans giving them unique insight and empathy. Eliza often found moments of quiet reflection in the castle gardens. She would walk among the swans that glided gracefully across the ponds, a gentle smile upon her lips. She remembered the nights she had spent weaving nettles into wax, the silence she had maintained, the tears she had shed, and the tiny mouse who had been her constant companion. Each memory reminded her that courage is not always loud, sometimes it is silent, patient, and enduring. Evenings were filled with joy and music. The family would gather in the great hall, sharing stories of their adventures, recounting lessons learned, and laughing together. The bonds between them, tested by darkness and cruelty, were now unbreakable. As years passed, Eliza and the king ruled the kingdom with wisdom, fairness, and compassion. The people flourished under their guidance, and the lessons of the past, the cruelty of the wicked queen, the bravery of a young girl, and the unyielding love of family were passed down from one generation to the next. The 11 princes, forever grateful to their sister, remained by her side, not just as her brothers, but as trusted advisors and friends. Together, they safeguarded the kingdom, ensuring that no darkness could ever rise to threaten the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Eliza's story became a legend, told by bards and storytellers far and wide. Children grew up listening to the tale of the girl who endured pain and silence to save her family, of the swans who soared through the sky yet longed for home, and of a kingdom restored through courage, love, and perseverance. And so, the family lived happily ever after. The king and queen Eliza ruled with grace. The 11 princes thrived, their bond stronger than ever. The people of the kingdom prospered, and the evil queen was never able to harm anyone again. On quiet nights, when the moonlight danced across the ponds, Eliza would sit and watch the swans glide gently across the water. She smiled softly, remembering every hardship and triumph, knowing that love, patience, and courage had conquered all. The castle stood tall and magnificent, a beacon of hope and justice. The gardens bloomed with every imaginable color, the halls echoed with laughter and music, and the legacy of the brave princess who had saved her brothers would be remembered for all time. And thus ends the tale of Eliza and the Wild Swans, a story of courage, love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond of family. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, hope and determination can overcome the most daunting obstacles, and that the strength of the heart is the most powerful magic of all.